So up next on the Hyperwave stage, we have Toriena Chiptune workshop with Shirobon. Today the Japanese and UK chiptune artists Toriena and Shirobon have a fabulous workshop for you. You'll get to learn some of the cool tricks and a bit of history of the chiptune scene direct from two masters of the genre. Toriena is the poster girl for the Japanese chiptune scene and put on an amazing show yesterday on this stage. Was anybody here for that? Yes, it was great, wasn't it? Okay. So she composes and arranges all her own tunes using nothing more than Nintendo Game Boy and DTM software. Shirobon is an electronic musician who started making music using a Game Boy in 2006 before going on to release his debut album, Golden Apples. He also runs his own record label, Hyperwave. He's been involved with it for over 10 years. In the workshop, Shirobon will explain how to create music using a Game Boy. He's using the original Game Boy and a cartridge with a music-making ROM. He will explain this step by step, how to make chiptune music. Okay, so let's welcome our chiptune masters on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a warm hype jam welcome for Toriena and Shirobon?
I'm a chiptuner!
Hey there, okay. So hello, Toriena and Shirobon. Welcome to the Hyperwave stage. Maybe you could just give us a very quick personal introduction. Start with you, Shirobon.
Yeah, sure. My name's Mikey, aka Shirobon, and I make music using Game Boys.
Brilliant. That doesn't need any translation, does it? じゃあ、Torienaさんも簡単な自己紹介をお願いします。
こんにちは。日本から来ました。チップチューナートリエナです。よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。Very different reaction there. I wonder what that is. Okay, so I've heard that you two are already acquainted from events over in Japan. Is that true?
Yeah.
お二人は以前日本に一緒にイベントに参加したこと
あ、結構何回かありますね。3、4回は多分一緒になってるんじゃないですかね。
Yeah, so that's true. About 3 or 4 times in the past. Yeah. So you must know a lot about each other's way of thinking, musical creativity. Is that true?
Yeah, no, for sure. We've done a few shows together. We generally have the same vibe when we play live, and we've even like do the real songs together and stuff. And I'd say our styles are pretty similar. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, shall we get started with the workshop then? じゃあそろそろworkshop.
始めましょう。イエーイ。
Yes. Let's get going. Okay, so Shirobon, for those who don't know chiptune, could you give a brief and easy to understand explanation of what it is?
So chiptune essentially is music made using sound chips, so for video game consoles such as Game Boys, NESs, Mega Drives, you name it. And you basically get a little, for example with the Game Boy, which what we'll be showing you, you have a little cartridge with some music making software on it. And then using the Game Boy on the train, wherever you like, in your bed at 1 in the morning, you can make music with the Game Boy. And it sounds cool, and it's retro, and
Okay, so can you hear me? I mean, I've got it. I was never here in the first place, maybe. Okay. Cool. Can you hear me now? Yes. Brilliant. Okay, so in order to start making chiptune music, are there any specific apps, software that you need? じゃあ、chiptuneを作るのに基本ソフト何か必要ありますかね？
そうですね。結構私の周りだと LSDJ っていうゲームボーイでよく使われる作曲ソフトを使ってて、でも他にもなんかナノループだったりそういうのもありますね。
So it would appear that most people are using the LSDJ software. It sounds a bit trippy to me. But also other varieties such as Nanoloop.
Yeah.
Okay, so without further ado, do you want to maybe show us how we go about doing it?
yeah, of course. We can get some video. There we go. So, just so everyone can see clearly, I'm using a ROM of the software that I use for the Game Boy, because obviously the Game Boy screen from here, no one can see what the hell is going on. And this is LSDJ, and basically you've got 4 channels along here. This is basically a song arranged screen. You've got 2 pulse, which are just straight square waves, just boop, you know. You've got a WAV channel where you can do more complicated stuff, and a noise channel that just makes white noise. And basically you can load up little loops, so that'll be loop 0, next one will be loop 1, hey, feedback. And then you can hold select, and you basically all these different menus, where you can do a whole bunch of stuff. Because we're a little limited on time, I'm not going to get too in depth, but you get a good idea on how the process of making a song from scratch would go. So if we take our first loop, and then on this page you can basically set up all your bars, and then on the next page you can pop in some notes. Yay! So to start off with, I'm going to make a little kick drum. By starting with
just to be sure, you're doing that on purpose, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
It's meant to sound bad for now.
For the older people in the audience.
Yeah, cool. So to do this, you basically get a high-pitched note. Basically smooth out a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but basically there's another page here where you can basically do little effects. So I'm going to go onto P, which does like pitch sweeps. But I set like a super quick one.
There we go.
So the start of it sounds like a kick, but then it kind of goes a bit crazy. So I'm going to put a little cheeky K here, which is basically kill, which kills the sound. Move it up a little bit. And then we can go to a synth menu here, change the waveforms, set a sign which will be a bit smoother. And then you've got a nice little thumpy kick. So let me just quickly stick a little something together. Yeah, now you feel
Okay, now it's beginning to sound like
yeah,
music.
so
Yeah.
I'll real quickly just stick a little bass in here. Da, 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 da. So it's already starting to sound kind of nice, so I'll just quickly change the sound of the bass by making it just a little you can basically make more loops, vary it as you like, but just to make things nice and quick, I'm just going to transpose what's going on. Maybe up the tempo a little bit. Hey, so now we've got a little progression there, and I'll pass it on
I can see a reaction from
Toriena
there. Yeah.
and she can stick some more drums in there.
Okay, so what controller? What are none of those?
Okay, yeah, so I'm just using a NES controller just for ease of access and just to follow the kind of shape of the game a little bit.
チャンネルをいじります。
Okay, so this is the noise channel that's being
これで、
here.
ハイハットとかスネアとかの音を作ったりとかすることが私は多いです。
Okay, so there's two kinds of sounds that she's making here that she often uses. The snare drum and the, what was the other one?
Hi-hat.
The hi-hat, yeah. Whatever that is.
で結構ウェブチャンネルは結構音量の調節ができないので、干渉しないように音のボリュームエンベロープをちょっと最初初期設定は A なんですけど7とか6とかぐらいにしておきます。
Okay, so she's talking about the kind of settings that she's putting in the first place because things are quite difficult to change on the web channel later on. So, are you able to follow this on here? And this just looks like completely foreign language to me. So, not Japanese.
Yeah, no, so basically what she's doing now is just changing the volume of the white noise, so it's not just shh, so it like fades out so you can get little percussive sounds.
Okay, okay.
でス
Make
ネ
it a
ア
bit
を
more snappy.
スネアを今作ります。
Okay, so she's making the snare sound
ちょ
now.
っと短く音の長さを短くして、
She's going to shorten the sound.
So she's shortening the sound and changing the shape of the noise, so it's a bit more than
Okay.
私はこういう音が好きです。
So yeah, she particularly likes this kind of sound.
ちょっとハイハットより大きめに。で、ちょっとコピーして。
So you both obviously using this controller, you're incredibly quick. I mean, is it quite easy for people to get enough?
When you first start using it. It takes a little while to get used to the kind of format of it and everything being letters and numbers and stuff. But once you've figured it out, it's actually quite quick to get a song together. And especially with the Game Boy, you've only got a couple of buttons. So navigating, once you get into the flow, you can actually be pretty snappy. And I can find that I actually make music a lot quicker with the Game Boy than more modern software.
So have we got any chiptune composers in the audience? Definitely got some listeners there. I can see the head
Come on,
going.
there wasn't someone else.
Okay.
ちょっとワークショップなのでこれぐらいにシンプルにしときます。
Okay, because we haven't got a lot of time, we're just going to go with a simple version here.
Cool, so now we've got a little beat going on. So let's get some melodies going and some more classic sounds. So start a new instrument. Oh yeah. So I'm putting a little effect here called C, which stands for chord, and basically it does really fast arpeggios. So if I put 3 and 7, it will do the 3rd note up and the 7th note up, and you get like that sort of really classic video game sounds. Let me just quickly pop these in.
I find myself nodding like I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, man, I feel
It's
you.
just for
It's
effect.
nice.
Yes.
And obviously there's like a whole bunch of different effects on here, but you can, if you get the software, you can enjoy in your own leisurely time what each of those do. But now we've got this little, and if I just pop into here, and like what Toriena did with the noise, just change the volumes and stuff.
So the software that's used here, is it freely, readily available?
So it's called LSDJ, and if you just Google it, there's a little website and it's like a donation type thing, so you just donate what you want and then you get the ROM. And then you can get USB cartridges that just plug in USB, and you just drag the ROM on, pop in the Game Boy, and it's good to go. Just do something a little bit tasty with this. So you can like dive in.
私はテクノがすごい好きで、もともとなんかミニマルテクノっぽいなと思って音がすごい好きでチップチューンやり始めました。
Okay, so you really like the minimal kind of techno sound of it all, and that's what really got her interested in making
Yeah, totally.
stuff.
So now I've got this little arpeggio. Perhaps kind of build it over.
Yeah, it's not
And then, yeah.
The real trick is getting these lots of stand up and
This
dance,
is, this is how you collaborate.
My
It's a little
tongue.
flavour of both, you know.
私は結構なんかオケループさせて今みたいにちょっと音を置いて考えるのが好きです。
Yeah, so she particularly likes making these loops, and so she's got the sound going around, listening to it, and let that inspire onto what she goes on to next.
シルボンが作ったのはこうペンペンってなってたからブワってしようかな。
Okay, so yeah, so Shirobon made the noise. She's playing around with that.
All about the pen.
そう。
Yeah, it's all about the pen. Yeah. So this is not something that you made in advance, is it? It's pretty much improvised what you're doing here, isn't it?
Yeah, right now we just improvise it and put it all together, but then obviously in the song arrange page you can make more loops and build a full track and do whatever you want with it. This page here is basically the table page, and on the instrument you can basically stack lots of effects on top of each other, so you can have some arpeggios and then go into like a vibrato and then some stuff like panning and things like that. So this is basically the more detailed instrument edit page right there. 2005, 2006, and I was already listening to a lot of video game soundtracks and stuff. And a friend of mine came up to me and was like, "Yo, if you're loving this stuff, you should check out this dude called his name is Henry Sweet, and is still doing a lot today, and it's really good. So if you're into like more minimal stuff, he does really good stuff using nano loop. But basically, I heard him, and then straight away it just like sounded like the coolest thing to me, and I was like straight onto Google, like, how do I make this? And the next day I already had stuff installed, and I was just like desperately trying to find out how it all worked and stuff, and then yeah, still addicted now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite a common thing whenever anybody starts playing games. They always think, wouldn't it be great to make your own game? Obviously, that's quite difficult to do.
Yeah, so this is
the same
like the equivalent of, you know, when you have your favorite soundtracks from your like NES games or whatever, and you really wish, you know, I'd love to make a song using all those sounds. Now, especially the last couple of years, it's become really accessible to get all the stuff you need to make music, where when I started, you know, there wasn't much hardware to get the ROM onto the cartridge, and you had to get this thing which the dude made, like only made like 10 at a time, and you needed a printer port, like an old school PC one. So if you're on a Mac, there's like no chance you have to go to your mate's house and borrow their printer port. But now there's like loads of USB cartridges, lots of different software coming out now, and you can even just do it in an emulator like this. But obviously it's cooler to have the actual Game Boy portable and stuff.
これでちょっと今はちょっと時間が短いんですけど、こういうフレーズを若干こうなんか変えたりとかしてなんか作っていくとチップチューンっぽい気がする。こう繰り返すワンフレーズをの一部分をちょっと音変えたりとかしていったりすると、多分チップチューンのなんか独特のメロディーっぽくなるんじゃないかな。
Yeah, so obviously we're limited in the amount of time that we've got available here, and obviously the kind of screens that we can show you. We've given you a really good idea of how you can have one sound and how you just change it little by little, give it to someone else, as we've seen here with Shirobon, and he'll change something, and as you go on you gradually build up to something which, you know, went from that nothing sound to begin with to an actual, what sounds like a music track here. And that really is the pleasure that you get from Chiptune.
Hey.
Okay, so as a professional artist, what is it about Chiptune that sort of really appeals to you then?
I think it's just because obviously this is still sort of straight up Game Boy sound. If you really get into the small details in sound design, you can make some really crazy sounds which I don't think I've ever heard anywhere else. So obviously as someone making music, it's great to have sounds no one's heard, and it's a cool way to stand out. And it's also got the nostalgic value as well. So even though you're making this all new, you're still getting that like nostalgia striking you, and it's just a little bit more exciting for me. Yeah.
なんか結構メインなんかちょっと多分シュメロみたいな感じだとメインメロディーだと思うんですけど、メインメロディーは私は結構なんかすごい凝っちゃうタイプで、なんかこの V コマンドとかこうビブラートみたいなのとか L コマンドとかこう下がったりこう上がったりとかするコマンドだとか、なんかそういうのをいっぱい使ったり、あとここのインストゥルメンツを結構サボらないでたくさんいろんな音を作って、なんかそれを組み合わせてなるべく凝ってあげるみたいなのを結構心がけてます。
Okay. So yeah, one of the things that really puts a lot of effort is when putting together these main melodies like this, is finding these sounds which have got like an upgoing sound and a downgoing sound. And there's a little bit of explanation about the things which I didn't really quite understand on the screen there, which I will gloss over. But yeah, so that's one of the things that was really, really important in how you go about putting together these kind of sounds that you do here. So, yeah.
じゃあ OK です。
Brilliant. So もう出来上がりましたか？
多分なんか時間まだ大丈夫ですか？
Yeah, so we haven't got much time. So can we hear the final thing? じゃあ出来上がっても
これで多分大丈夫です。
Okay, so we're going to hear the complete thing.
たいな感じでね
Oh, yeah.
これを続けていっぱい作っていくと曲になります
Yeah, yeah. So obviously that's the beginning of what they've done there. But I mean that sounds like game music, doesn't it? And almost like dance music to a certain extent. And on the basis of that, you'll then go on, you'll make your actual tune.
Yeah, because obviously that's just 5 minutes of doodling. If you spend a bit of time putting it all together, you could do some really cool stuff. And I mean, if this was actually like done in Japan, it would sound a bit more like. But yeah,
the volume would be higher.
Yeah, totally.
The lights would be a bit brighter.
Hyper.
Yeah. There's no. So, Torieana, this is your first time in London and Hyper Japan. How are you finding it? じゃあイギリスにいらっしゃるのが初めてし。
いや実はね2回目なんです
2回目。
そうなの
Who wrote this? Okay. 2回目ですか。
2回目
Yeah, number 2.
そうナンバー
Okay.
2 Yes でもこんな大きいイベントでライブパフォーマンスしたりこうやってお話しするのは初めてですイギリス
Okay,
で
yeah, so it's not actually her first time to come to the UK, it's the second time, but it's the first time that she's been to a big event like this and had an opportunity to talk about people. じゃあそれはどういう感じですか？
いやーなんかすごい最初はなんかこうライブ見に来てくれるかなとかこうやってお話しして来てくれるかなってちょっと不安だったんですけどこんなにたくさん来ていっぱい見てくれてすごい良かったしでこのトークイベントというかワークショップを見てチップチューンやってみたいなとかちょっとやってみようかなって思う人がいたら嬉しいなと思います。
So when she first came here, she was really worried that she might have this workshop put together and nobody would come and see her, and that would be really embarrassing and awful, which of course never happens here at Hyper Japan. But it's really good to come here, and she really hopes that you've actually learned something and had an idea that maybe this is something that I could get involved in. Would anybody like to give it a go? I don't mean come up here and do it, but eventually would you like to give it a go? Yeah. やっぱりやってみたい。
あーすごいナイスレッツチップチューンイエーイ
Brilliant. Okay, so just one last question. Is there anything that either of you are planning to do as an artist in future, or anything you've got in the bag at the moment? じゃあ最後の質問ですが、今の予定アーティストとしてチャレンジしてみたいと思うことはありますかね？
Yeah, right now, I mean, I've released quite a few albums and EPs over the course of 10 years. So right now I'm actually taking a bit of time to explore lots of different styles and sounds and trying to reinvent myself a little bit, but not too much. So still like classic Shirobon, but trying to basically reinvent myself a little bit. So I'm taking a little break. I say by the end of the year I'll come out with something a little bit more fresh.
Sabbatical.
Yeah, but it's difficult after you've written like over 100 songs, It starts to sound the same. I mean, I can write the same stuff again and again, but I don't really want to do that, so that's my little move at the moment.
じゃあ、鳥山さんは。
私は結構ずっとなんかゲームボーイだけで曲を3年ぐらい作ってきてで最近ちょっとパソコンも交えて作るようになったんですけどなんかもっともっと音楽としてなんか楽しいなって思ってほしいからなんかこうバンドとコラボしたりとかもしてみたいなって思ってます。
Okay, so for the last 3 years or so, she's been making music. Started off just using the Game Boy, and recently she's been adding in using laptop, personal computer as well. And what she'd like to do going forward is get a bit more involved with bands, so combining her music with their music. Sounds like great. We'd like to listen to that, wouldn't we? Yeah. We'd like her to come back on Hyper Japan with another group, wouldn't we? Yes. じゃあぜひ
ちょっとじゃあバンド組んだらまたここに来たいです。
Okay, yeah. So once she's put a band together, if anybody would like to join a band, there's a full push.
Oh yeah.
これで。
じゃあ一緒にのコラボレーション。
やりたい。ちょっと一緒に曲作りたい。シロボン。
So you know what's going on. So yeah, so I mean, the obvious question is, why don't you do something together?
Which I'm sure we will. We like started a little idea before the first time she came down to London. I think it's probably time to finish it off. 100%.
Yeah, see there's a man there if it was a really bad idea. Brilliant, great. Well, thank you both for that wonderful workshop and talk. Can we have a big round of applause for Toriena and Shirobon?